What's good, y'all? It's your boy Zay, Zay-P the I am. I am that I am, as you are that you are, for we are all that we are. From the individual to the many, for the many is the all, and the all is one. So for today's quick video, what I want to get into is to discuss the differences between our beliefs and our values. Now, this theme has been coming up with me recently based on just some of the different experiences that I've been having dealing with loved ones in my family, based off of the experiences I've been having with working with some clients of mine, and what I'm seeing in the trends between people who come to me for readings, people who have come to me for energy healing, and the few clients that I have as far as coaching goes. And what I'm recognizing is that there is a huge discord between understanding your belief systems and knowing your values. A lot of us walk around kind of pre-conditioned to think our beliefs and values are the same. They are not. Your belief systems are not the same as your value systems. That is the first thing that I want to point out, because we often walk around thinking that our beliefs and our values are the same, or that our values reflect our beliefs. Our values do not always reflect our beliefs. Our beliefs and values are not the same. Our beliefs do not always inform the values that we have, nor vice versa. It does not go hand in hand. But because we walk around conditioned to thinking that, we never really take that hard look to look at our beliefs, to look at our values, and to really see and discern whether or not they're in accord with each other. The fact of the matter is, a lot of times they are not. And when they're not, what happens is that we come to a place in ourselves and in our lives where we start to see this manifested, where we are working against ourselves. We have belief systems that tell us one thing. We have value systems that cause us to act in another way. So this video is all about learning and understanding that principle so that you can come in accordance with yourself, and you can be in integrity with yourself, and you can learn to start to bring alignment between your beliefs and your values. See, once you start to bring the alignment between the beliefs and the values, then your momentum starts to build in a way that you are working in line and aligned with yourself. When your beliefs are supporting your values, then you have more spur to move forward. You're more inspired, you're more incentivized to take actions on the things that you believe. So that said, I want to share with you this particular example of how our beliefs and our values may not always be in accordance. In 2016, I had my conscious awakening. I share that with a lot of y'all, and I call it my conscious awakening because I recognize that throughout my entire life I had been going through awakenings. We've all been going through awakenings. Every time you have an epiphany, you're having some sort of awakening. You're awakening to a newfound truth that helps shift the perspective of your mind, helps shift your experience of the world, of your reality. So every time you have that type of epiphany, it is a form of awakening. So I recognize that I've been having awakenings my entire life. That said, my conscious awakening, the really big one, and I'm only saying conscious awakening to that extent because even since then I've been having more awakenings, but just going on these deeper levels. So as I stepped into my newfound sense of self and my newfound truthful ways of being, my spiritual self, walking the spiritual path, getting in touch and getting connected with my sixth sense gifts, what I came into was all sorts of newfound ways of being for myself. Things like compassion, empathy, things that I was not necessarily taught as a man, as a young black man growing up in a city like New York City. We're not really necessarily encouraged to embrace or experience those types of emotions, that type of sentimentality, that type of these types of ways of being. A lot of times these type of ways of being are more thought to be feminine or even female in nature. Now, this is a whole other topic of conversation about the difference between male and female versus the divine feminine and divine masculine. You can be a man and be completely in balance with your divine feminine. We all have the feminine and masculine within us. When we start to think that, oh, because I'm a man, I only have to have a masculinity, then we become very toxic in the ways that we are being, and we're not acknowledging 50% of who we are. When we're not acknowledging 50% of who we are, we're doing a huge disservice to ourselves and to the world around us. You can never really get to where you want to go, because where you think you want to go is not really where you want to go, because half your being is not included in that perspective. Half your being is not included in that outlook. But that's a whole nother tangent. That said, stepping into my conscious awakening and coming into these newfound ways of being, the importance of love, the importance of things like forgiveness, which became very important truths in my soul. I could feel the resonance with how important and impactful that is. However, I grew up in an environment that said you have to be tough. You can't take stuff from anybody, or people will victimize you, people will take advantage, people will hurt you, etc. Things of that nature. So you have to be strong, you have to be tough, you can't take crap from no one. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Actually, where I came from, it was 2 eyes for an eye. Somebody blinds you, you blind both of their eyes, so they never mess with you again. It was always escalated and take it to the next level, so they know to back down, so they know not to mess with you. So this is how I was brought up. These are some of the principles that I learned, quote unquote, whether you say it's on the streets, whether you say it's from experience, from dealing with bullies, whether you say it's just from other toxic men in my environment, whatever you want to say, whether it's from a lack of men, masculine role models, and women trying to overcompensate and tell me what it is that you need to be as a man. All sorts of things inform us as we grow. So that said, as I stepped into my newfound truth, and that becomes integral to my belief system, I recognize now, later on after the fact, that these newfound ways of being, which have become pivotal in my belief system, are completely divergent against some of the things that I've learned. Some of the things that I've learned being completely impingent in my value system. So being loving, compassionate, forgiving, these higher aspects, these graceful ways of being, completely contradict what I was just talking about as far as not taking people's stuff, not, an eye for an eye or 2 eyes for an eye. Like, they are completely contrary. I would never have seen that until something came up in my life that forced me to take a hard look at it. So when my son, I have a son, he's now 7, he's starting to get into the issues of like bullies, school bullies. Kids are mean, things of that nature. Now, my son is a very intuitive child. He's a very sweet, loving boy. And I'm very proud of that fact. I'm very proud that I've been able to kind of facilitate an environment around him where he could grow up being this innocent, pure soul. But now that he's in this public school system and he's dealing with all sorts of kids who have whatever particular issues, he comes up against a lot of things that he has not experienced when he was more sheltered. That said, that's things like bullying, things like mean kids, things like, how to stand up for yourself, or the need to stand up for yourself, the need to protect your boundaries versus the need to fit in those social experiences that we all are kind of conditioned to go through as we are in those formative years. So that said, having him go through that experience, my initial knee-jerk reaction was jump straight to my values. Don't take that crap from no one. I'm gonna teach you how to fight. But I've been showing him things his entire life. I'm all about arming him with the tools that he needs to protect himself. Simultaneously, I don't want my son to be a bully. I'm not trying to make him a violent person. He doesn't really care for fighting. I'm not trying to make him be this big macho machismo fighter. And so that has never been his experience, the need to flex that side. And he's never really cultivated that aggression or even that level of confidence that says, go ahead and punch somebody or go ahead and hit somebody. Like, his concerns is like, he doesn't want to be mean. That's not nice. Even if the kids are being mean to him, he's like, I don't want to just start lashing out and hitting somebody. And that is a beautiful thing for a child to have. Same time, where I'm from, that's the type of attitude that leaves kids to become victims. So for me, it was a huge conflict seeing my child go through this and having this way of being about me that says, yo, you know, you got to put the smack down, right? You gotta punch somebody in the mouth. You gotta check them. You gotta make sure everybody else sees so nobody else going to cross you, things of that nature. Versus all this new truth that I know that is still relatively new to me. It's only it's been a few years, right? 4 or 5 years since I've been on this spiritual path. I mean, outside of that, yes, I've had, a lot of these beliefs kind of touched upon, but they're not really instilled as belief systems until you internalize it and they become your own truth. And so there was the conflict, like how do I make my sweet, loving, innocent child, this pure soul, into this into something that's completely different from what he naturally is, into some sort of violent aggressor, fighter. And it was very difficult. It was very difficult to internalize and to come to terms and come to grips with that, until I realized that I had a schism. There was a huge schism between what I believed and what my values told me. My values told me you don't allow other people to take advantage of you. You don't allow other people to hurt you. You don't allow these things to happen. Violence is the answer if it comes to that. Whatever it takes type of mentality. Whereas my beliefs are telling me, that's not true. And, we are all empathic, loving creatures. We are all capable of love. And anytime that we are not in alignment with that, is because there's something fractured and broken within us. There's something that needs healing and repair. And there's something that makes us fear-based, that makes us feel like if we don't take from others, or if we don't assert our authority or assert our power, quote unquote, then we are weak or something along those lines. So my belief systems completely contradict that, but my values kind of enforce that. And having that schism, I was so in between two worlds with how to address my son. I've resolved the issue. I've come to the place of being accepting of my son as he is, but knowing that the ways of the world is sometimes not conducive to people being as they naturally are. Sometimes we have to learn how to step outside of our natural selves. Sometimes we have to learn how to be that aggressor, or we have to learn. But whatever the case may be, it is his path to walk. Best I can do as a parent is to arm him. So yeah, put him in martial arts, teach him self-defense, giving him the tools he needs should he make the choice on his own to defend himself through a more aggressive means, so that he is capable of taking care of himself, but still cultivating the loving side, that says, it's not right. And if you don't want to fight, you don't have to fight. It's okay to be the sweet, loving boy that you are, and letting him know that he is loved irregardless of that. That is encouraged. See, that's how I came to terms with it. But me coming to terms with it allows me to really sit and take note. And in the sitting and taking noting, damn, I have a huge schism between what I believe and what my values are. In this particular area, I'm able to start looking and recognizing that there are many other schisms between what my beliefs may be and what my values may be. And this time, 2020, year of vision, year of sovereignty and freedom, one of the most important things you're going to be forced to look at is your beliefs versus your values, and either choosing or figuring out how to bring them both into alignment. There's no right or wrong answer to any of these questions. There's no good or bad, although that's subjective BS. But one thing that I am dropping this video to inform you about is the importance of understanding that your values are not the same as your beliefs. Your beliefs are not the same as your values. They don't necessarily enforce or bolster each other up. And a lot of times, if you are not aware, they can be in conflict with each other. And that conflict that they may be in within you can be causing all sorts of blocks, all sorts of hindrances in your life. So, with that said, I want to remind you to be mindful, to think about these things. What type of belief systems you have versus the value systems you have, and how you can bring them into alignment or can come to terms with yourself in that. and recognizing that, okay, I am this, but I also feel this way. Now, is what I'm feeling over here, is what I'm feeling in my value system actually true, or actually representative of the truth that I know to be? And if it's not, how can I bring that more into alignment? And if I can't, is there a way that they can coexist? Or perhaps I need to scrap that belief. That's not really my belief, and I need to acknowledge that that's not really my belief. Or if that's truly what I believe, then perhaps I need to figure out how to change this value. I need to figure out how to change that volatile, aggressive, toxic masculine value systems that I've had. And I've been changing that. I've been doing the work to make those changes because I believe there's a better way to be. There's better states of being. There's better ways in life to conduct oneself. That said, I'm not a violent person. This is not about me. And I'm like, oh, Mr. Machismo, and I'm going out ready to fight somebody. But that is something that men often learn. And that is something that I myself had to learn and had to deal with. So seeing that and dealing with it as it relates to my child. See, in the situation of having a child to allow me to step outside of myself and really recognize, oh, wait a minute, there's a schism between my beliefs and between my values, helped me to identify how that's a problem internally, and how that causes friction and problems in my own life. Because if I take those same principles and then I go out to the business world and I have this complete loving nature and I'm dealing with toxic people who are just like, yo, take advantage and get whatever they want from this guy, well, then that could be a problem. But then I have a value system that says, yo, hurt everybody to get what I need and what I want first and foremost, well, that could be a whole nother problem. But now that I have had the opportunity to see the schism, I can bring them closer together and recognize, okay, I can be this completely loving person, but at the same time, being that completely loving person means that I offer that love to myself, and that I am able to say, okay, it is important for me to protect my boundaries, to protect myself, to not allow myself to be hurt and taken advantage of, with the understanding that there's compassion and that there's love, right? So now my value and my beliefs come more into alignment. Then from that place, I can go into the business world. I can go someplace in my life and say, okay, I want to be this loving, compassionate person. But if somebody crosses my boundaries or crosses a particular line, then I'm more than willing to go with my value system. But my value system is also tempered by some of that love and compassion, right? I don't necessarily have to go for 2 eyes for 1 eye. Somebody pokes me in the eye, well, then I don't know what kind of action I will take. I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect human being. But I know I will have some compassion and some empathy. And maybe I won't poke them in the eye. Maybe I'll give them a stern warning. Who knows? Maybe I'll smack them across the face. But maybe I won't take both of their eyes out. So, that said, take a look at your own life. Take a look at your own belief systems and your own value systems, and determine where you may have conflicts. Because if you have conflicts between your beliefs and your values, then it's not just in here. You can be assured that's manifesting in your life. If it's manifesting in your life, it's causing all kinds of hindrances and issues, and you want to resolve that. So that's my tip for 2020. I hope it makes some sense to you. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Check me out, facebook.com/im.Zay-P, or hit the Instagram, Zay-P. And it's your boy Zay-P. I'm out. Peace.